Welcome to Quicksand, the most important news in pharma and biotech this week. After decades of research, a gene therapy to correct a specific genetic mutation is on the brink of being approved by the FDA. Spark Therapeutics' Luxturna for the inherited form of blindness was unanimously backed by an advisory committee, despite questions from agency reviewers about the clinical endpoints used in the biotech's pivotal trial and safety. And the FDA will now decide whether to greenlight it by January 12th. The 16 members of the panel were all persuaded by the data for Luxturna for etagene neparvovec, a one-shot treatment for a currently untreatable condition called biallelic RPE65-mediated inherited retinal dystrophy, or IRD, that affects around 3,500 individuals in the US and Europe. Impassioned testimony from people treated with the therapy also played its part. People with biallelic RPE65-mediated IRD are born with poor vision and typically go on to lose their sight completely. Those treated in Spark studies showed functional improvements at 30 days. The therapy can't restore normal sight, and that was maintained out to 1 year and in one case out to 4 years after dosing. Patients described what the level of improvement meant to their daily lives, for example, allowing them to read facial expressions, recognize colors, and go out at night. Philadelphia-based Spark said the positive vote moves us closer to bringing this investigational adeno-associated viral vector gene therapy to patients, while analysts said approval by the FDA would be a watershed moment for the entire gene therapy field. A study on direct-to-consumer or DTC drug advertising published in Nature Human Behavior finds that consumers perceive drugs to be less risky when ads for the drug lists all of the side effects compared to when only serious side effects are listed. Current US FDA regulations require that drug ads present a fair balance between information about a drug's risks and benefits. This is typically done by listing all of the drug's side effects and contraindications based on its approved prescribing information. For broadcast ads, FDA gives drug makers the option of listing only major risks so long as the ad points to a variety of other sources for finding information about the drug, such as referring patients to their doctors, a toll-free phone number, or a website. While these regulations are meant to inform consumers about the potential risks of taking a drug, the authors argue that FDA has paradoxically dampened consumers' judgments of overall severity and risk and increased the marketability of these drugs. The authors say that this leads to an ethical dilemma between providing consumers with the complete information and presenting limited information that could lead to better estimation of risk. FDA has also recently signaled that it is looking to change its approach to presenting risk information in DTC ads to improve consumers' understanding of risks based on its own research showing that lengthy lists of side effects might lead to worse retention and understanding of a drug's risks. Under FDA's proposed approach, drug makers could limit the risks presented in broadcast ads to just those that are severe, serious, or actionable, along with a disclosure stating that not all of the drug's risks are listed. The US FDA has begun implementing the Prescription Drug User Fee Amendments of 2017, or PDUFA VI, and released draft guidance explaining the new fee structure and types of fees for which industry is responsible. Changes to the fee structure under PDUFA VI mean FDA can collect two types of fees through 2022. Human drug application fees, accounting for 20% of the total, collected at the time applications are submitted, and prescription drug program fees, accounting for 80% of the total, which are collected annually for certain prescription drugs. Exceptions to the application fee include previously filed applications and applications for drugs designated as orphan drugs for a rare disease. In terms of program fees, each sponsor is required to pay the annual fee for each prescription drug approved as of October 1st of each fiscal year, but applicants may not be assessed more than 5 prescription drug program fees for a fiscal year. PDUFA VI also eliminated fees for drug application supplements, establishment fees, and so-called fees exceed cost waiver. California passed a law requiring pharmaceutical companies to explain their price increases, escalating the state-by-state battle between lawmakers trying to bring more transparency to the industry's practices and drug makers that oppose the efforts. The California measure, signed by Governor Jerry Brown, is among the most aggressive state efforts to peel back the secretive process of setting drug prices in the U.S. The law requires pharmaceutical companies to notify insurers and government health plans at least 60 days before a planned price increase of more than 16% during a 2-year period, and to explain the rationale for the increase. The information will be available on a government website. Californians have a right to know why their medical costs are out of control, Brown said at a signing ceremony in Sacramento. This measure is a step at bringing transparency, truth, exposure to a very important part of our lives. Drug makers will have to begin reporting the data in January 2019. The law, like measures in other states, is expected to be a legal target by the industry. Last month in Nevada, the industry's 2 major lobbying groups, Pharmaceutical Research and Manufacturers of America, or PhRMA, and the Biotechnology Innovation Association, or BIO, sued the state over a law requiring drug plan administrators to reveal rebates they get on diabetes drugs. In Maryland, the Association for Accessible Medicines, the Trade Association for Generic Drug Makers, challenged the state price gouging law, although a judge allowed it to take effect on October 1st. China has said it will accept data from clinical trials run overseas in a bid to shorten the time it takes to approve new drugs and medical devices. It's the latest in the string of regulatory initiatives implemented by Chinese authorities that could be a boost for international biopharma companies as well as Chinese patients, who sometimes have to wait 6 or 7 years after launch in Western markets for drugs to be launched in China, according to a Reuters report. The country's huge and increasingly affluent population is facing an ever-growing burden of chronic diseases like cancer and diabetes, and the government has been under pressure to improve access to health care and new medicines. The latest wide-ranging set of proposals in Chinese recognize that China is lagging behind other countries when it comes to approving new drugs. It's approved 100 innovative new drugs in the last 5 years, around a third the number in developed markets. China is in the midst of a big overhaul of its regulatory regimes governing healthcare products, reforming rules covering the development and manufacturing of drugs to bring the country closer in line with international standards. Earlier this year, for example, it pledged to do away with the ponderous certification system for clinical trial sites in a bid to encourage domestic clinical research. At the same time, it said it would adopt a no response within 60 days means approval approach to clinical trial applications, similar to the 30-day system used by the US FDA. Thank you for listening to the Quicksand, Episode 1, October 16th, 2017.